Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. I'm back with Rushina today. So, Rushina is a culinary expert, writer, and a consultant. So, thank you very, very much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
I'm
Before we get
really
into any
excited to talk
conversation,
on podcasts these days.
yeah, totally. So, before we get into any conversation, my first question to you would be, if you could, if you can tell about yourself, what you do, and how did you get, what is your work about, and if you can give a small introduction about yourself, that would be wonderful.
So basically, I am a culinary chronicler and consultant. That's what I call myself. I work in the space of creating content around food. This could be in the form of written content. It could be from the behind the scenes aspect of researching specific aspects of food. We do also a lot of food consulting. We work with a lot of food and beverage brands. My company is called A Perfect Bite Consulting. And as a consulting company, we work with a lot of different brands to do some really unusual stuff in the food space. So we've done things like we have created the IP for the Godrej Food Trends Report, which is now 5th year running, which is basically a qualitative and quantitative analysis of what happens, what is going to happen in the food space in the year to come. I've done things like flavor conference, where it was like a thought leadership conference where we got people from the food industry together, and we did a number of different exercises, simulations, and conversations with them. And the idea was to figure out what is the future of flavor profiles in India, which is an area which is very interesting to anyone in the food creation space, FMCG companies. So people who make the chips and the instant noodles and all these packet snacks are always trying to figure out what is going to be popular in the years to come. So that was something we did a couple of years ago. We've done the Culinary Chroniclers Conclave, which was a platform to bring together people in the space of creating food content for video, for written mediums, and a bunch of other things, podcasts also. So those are some of the big projects I do. And then on a personal level, I'm extremely invested in studying Indian food. So I do a lot of projects that sort of do deep research into various aspects of Indian cuisine. So one of the ongoing projects I have is the Spice Chronicles, which I've been doing on Instagram, which comes to a conclusion soon. And then in the pandemic, we've done a bunch of things. So I'm currently also running a culinary chronicling course for people who want to learn how to create content for.
Yes, so thank you for it. Thank you very much for the introduction. The next question I would like to put up here to you is why did you enter the food space? Why did you think you wanted, or why do you think food space was something interested to you?
So I didn't intentionally choose food or the food space as a career. It was something that found me rather than me going looking for it. About 20 years ago, I basically had just had a baby, and I'd quit my work career, like I'd quit working full time to be at home with the baby, but I needed something creative to keep me occupied. And so this was when blogging had just started as a phenomenon. Like people didn't even know what blogging was. This was that time. And a friend of mine introduced me to the concept of blogging. So I started my first blog. My first blog was actually not even about food. It was more about writing and literature. And I used to write poetry and stuff like that. So I used to put it all on my blog. And then one day I decided to do an article on my blog on pickles. So I went looking for information on pickles, and I found this website at that point called egullet.org, where there was like a whole bunch of people from the food space. Mm-hmm. And there were people having conversations around food. There were food writers, book authors, everything. It was like a whole world of people only talking about food. And that was really interesting for me. And that was when I found out that there is something called a career called food writing. And so things worked out very sort of apne aap. Things happened, and I ended up starting to write on food. It started with researching a book on Garhwali cuisine, and then as things progressed, I started writing freelance about food, and then that's where it just grew from there. So I started writing on food. Then I realized I wanted to create a blog. So I created a blog on food. I started doing food styling and photography. And then about 4 or 5 years down the line, I took a break from the food writing part to have my second baby. And after I came back to work from that, I realized I was a bit bored with what I'd been doing. Like I'd cracked it, right? I'd done everything. I'd figured it out. I'd figured out what worked for me. And now I needed new challenges. So then I got into the food consulting space. And I did that informally for a couple of years before I set up my own consulting company, which is called A Perfect Bite Consulting. And over the years, we worked with some really interesting food brands, Godrej. At that point, Godrej had Nature's Basket, which was a chain of food stores. So I worked with them. And Amori Gelato. And I mean, I've worked with so many interesting people and brands.
So, what was your major problems when you were exploring as the side, of course, the side of blogging and all of that? What were your major issues while starting your blog?
Well, I think in the early days, as a blogger, blogging was not considered something very serious. It's not like today when people sort of invite bloggers because they've built a reputation for themselves. So half the people didn't know what blog was. There was no value for brands and stuff. There was no value in online marketing. It was still a time when print media was valued more. So there was a challenge to introduce or to sort of just get people used to the concept of blogging and stuff like that. And then because I function in a very unique space, there's always been challenges of, I think one of the biggest challenges has always been to illustrate to the people that you're trying to sell yourself or your services to, the value of the services you offer. That's always a challenge. Mm-hmm. From my perspective also, because I do not have formal training in either journalism or hospitality, I'm very self-taught. I always faced a slight imposter syndrome to some extent. Mm-hmm. And then when I started working in the consulting space, the whole idea of consulting did not exist. And the food industry was a very male-dominated, chef-dominated industry. Like if you were a chef, obviously it came with, the label of chef came with a certain amount of experience and knowledge. And the large perspective was that if you want a chef, you couldn't possibly have that much knowledge. But as a henny, I mean, today, I think more than ever, we see people doing all kinds of things without having experience or background in a specific area of operation. But that time, those were challenges one had to face. One, just to establish that, I know what I was talking about. Mm-hmm. Two, to create value for, or to show people the value in the services I offer. Those were some of the challenges that I faced.
Okay. And then how have things changed from then to now? What differences do you see?
Well, I think it has been about 20 odd years since I've been in this space. I've grown as an individual. I've grown as a professional. I have a lot more confidence than I did in the beginning. I think also with age, what happens is you realize that at beyond a point, you don't give a damn. Like, today I have created a space for myself in both the food industry as well as in my own head, where I am very lucky to be able to do things that I really want to do. as opposed to have to do, because there was a point at which I had to do stuff because I had expenses to meet. I had I was running a studio, so I had rents and salaries and all of that stuff, and that still exists. But I think what I've reached is a really nice balance of doing what I love and what I want to do, without feeling the pressure of, ye project nahi lenge to hum month ka expenses kaise meet karenge, that sort of thing. Today I have the luxury of choosing projects that I want to do rather than that I have to do. So that's changed, and that I think is purely personal mindset. I think, like most people, the lockdown has been quite figurative in making us change our thought processes. Like at one point, I used to think I can't function unless I'm working out of my office. But now for 2 years, I've been actually functioning. I'm not even in Bombay. I'm functioning from Dehradun. I'm conducting everything, online courses, research. I'm working on the Godrej Food Trends Report. Everything is happening in a virtual way from another location. And I think it's actually only the results are coming out only better than they've ever come out before. So I think, a lot of times we tell ourselves कि ये नहीं हो सकता या वो नहीं हो सकता. But जब करना पड़ता है तो, you figure out a solution. So I think lockdowns really taught us to be self-reliant, taught us that a lot of these things that we used to think we can't do without are really not important. एक जगह हो, वाईफाई होना चाहिए, एक अच्छा सा जगह होना चाहिए काम करने के लिए, and then you're sorted out.
Yeah, I think I agree on that part also, because jab I was doing the podcast episodes before, it was on camera and all of that. We used to go to some cafes and all of that, and I was like, camera pe hi karna hai, otherwise I'm not going to do any episodes. But when COVID had come, I was like, abhi koi solution hai hi nahi. So it gave me I had to do a podcast on Zoom. I didn't like it. I knew Zoom is something I can use it, but I didn't want to do it on it. But then I had no other option. So it gave, I think I totally agree on that point of yours. And moving forward, I would just like to put some more questions to you. Is this question has always haunted me when I saw television and man cooking all the time on television. Why is like good food, they say good food is cooked by women, then why is man are dominating the chef space? Like I just had that question, like why is as such?
Well, I think if you look at demographics, Lakshit, the larger audience watching TV is women, right?
Yeah.
So women will most likely want to watch. I mean, it's a very basic thing. And it's not like as a woman, I don't want to watch a woman cook. I do. But if I have to create propositions that make my TV channel interesting, then I need to give women interesting things to look at as well. And we can't deny the fact that a lot of our celebrity chefs are also eye candy. So the larger percentage of audience is women. So generally, I think, and this is my feeling, I don't have any numbers to prove it or anything, but I feel that's why you see male chefs. So there are some fantastic women chefs as well. But I think when it comes to money on something, TV channels probably choose guys because a lot of their audience is women. And then there are, of course, shows like also MasterChef, which are for the entire family, where you see a mix of women and men. And I think purely from the, you watch a TV show, not just because you're going to cook from it, but also from the entertainment perspective. So it's all about aesthetics, and TV will always put its money on aesthetics. What looks good, whether it's the food, whether it's the people behind the shows, as in the hosts behind the cameras, they'll always pick eye candy. And that's why you see also a lot of shows cover food also of a specific kind. The kind of stuff that's fun, convenient, full of indulgence, like cream and ghee and butter and cheese and sugar and baked stuff and treats. Because that's more appealing, right? A lot of us, I mean, someone like me, I would definitely watch a show that looks at food history or does a deep dive into dal and rice. But most people, when they sit down to watch TV, are looking for an escape. They're looking for half an hour, 45 minutes of manoranjan. That's going to come from something that, you can't dream of having in your own kitchen.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, totally. It does. It does. Yeah. Thank you very much. So, just one more question I would like to ask you is, what would be your advice to anybody or any person who wishes to pursue, wishes to start a cloud kitchen, wishes to be in the food space, wishes to be a culinary expert or anything as such? What would be your advice to them?
My advice to them, anybody who's aspiring to do something, do your homework. Anybody can have a dream. That's your first step to achieving something, is having a dream. But you have to realize that having a dream is only the first step. After that, there's a lot of hard work to achieve it.
Yeah.
You don't stop studying. You always keep reading, keep learning. There's never going to be a point in your life when you're going to know everything. And that humility is what you should approach anything you choose to do with, because the day you say, I don't need to learn more, is the day you need to get out of that business.
Yeah.
I think also, as somebody who has run a business and shut it, you need to realize when your business is done. Sometimes a concept has a shelf life, and you need to realize when the party is over and you need to move into another space. And it's not failure. This is coming from personal experience. I shut a business, and I felt like I'd failed. But actually, you need to change the story you're telling yourself. You haven't failed. You have, because whatever duration you spent working on that business has given you something invaluable. It's given you experience. It's given you learning. It's just a journey. And when you close a business and you move into another space, you're turning a chapter in the journey that is your journey, that is your path that you have chosen, and each experience teaches you something that you take forward into the new experiences that you'll get.
Yeah, totally. Wonderful. Yeah. So thank you very, very much for being here. I think great time I had having here, and a lot of questions which I had was solved. A lot of things I wanted to know were answered. Thank you very, very much for being here. It's a pleasure. It was a pleasure, and always will be a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.